Hello and welcome back to Wondrous Minds. So let's talk about why Indians buy SUVs, or to call it by the name that it should be actually called crossovers. So let's talk about three things. Okay, why geography or the way our cities are laid out uh, leaves a pattern on what people buy. Secondly, that why sedans or these low slung cars are not working in India. And third, why this shift from hatchbacks to SUVs have happened suddenly, not only in India but across the world, and why, particularly in India, is this trend happening. So, firstly, the way our cities are laid out. Um, so, you all know that in North America or America in general, people buy large SUVs or trucks. Pickup trucks is something that is the highest selling cars in USA or Canada or the North South American states as well. So why is it so? Well, because majority of North and South America gets a lot of snowfall in winters, and harsh and long winters is something that is prevalent there. Secondly, the cities are largely laid, and there is not really much public transport to speak of. There are cities which have some the metro system called subways there. For example, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, they have public transport. Cannot say the same for every city that are there in the USA. And also, being a large country with such large breadth, the means of transport traveling from one city to another, or one city from to a village or something, people have to rely on cars because there is not a very efficient railway system to speak of. High speed railway has not started, work has not started in fact, and the only other means is flight. But then for a shorter distance, something that is less than, let's say, 100 kilometers, 100 miles, um, it's really not a very suitable option in terms of the finances. So that is why large SUVs, and even in transport within the city, uh, the walking distances are large and you have to rely on something, and cars very is the most suitable option in the America. Um, Now coming to Europe, Europe has more walkable cities, and really walkable cities, especially the ones which are the older parts of the cities are walkable and narrow enough to not really accommodate a large car, and that is why you will also find two-seater cars being very prevalent there. For example, the Citroen Me, it will never work in somewhere like the US or in India or in other city, any other country outside the continent of Europe, because European cities are laid out like that. And now coming to why even in Europe currently there is a trend of having a larger car, and if you see the cars that are sold in Europe, they have grown significantly larger in size. For example, the small hatchbacks, the A segment of Europe, are almost 4 meters in length, which in India would mean that it would be in the compact SUV or compact car segment. Um, and in fact, the Volkswagen Polo, why it is not being sold in India anymore, is because the new Polo is larger than 4 meters in length, while in India, anything that is above 4 meters in length attract a different tax segment. So, European cars have also grown in size, and that is also another fact that outside of the cities that Europe has, the suburban areas, they have grown in size, and they almost follow a American pattern of having car centric cities. For example, the La Défense, which is just outside Paris, or I think Milton Keynes, or I don't remember the name, but just outside London there are all these suburbs which are more car centric. So even European, cities are now growing out and growing into car centric cities, because of when there is an expansion, you go having a longer distance to cover from one place to another within a city, and for that you need to have some mode of transport. and cars are suited for personal use very much. Now coming to India, India is a more challenging case. Indian cities are a mix of both. Indian cities have grown a lot since independence because, well, firstly there was the refuse crisis, which led to expansion automatically into suburbs. Then the outpace with migration from villages. People have settled in cities, and for settlement, when the city has already grown, with the large, chunk of the city being too much, too pricey for people who are migrating from villages, they move to the suburbs. The suburbs grow and become part of the city. Mumbai, for example, Mumbai has so many suburbs which are now a core part of the city itself. Bandra used to be a suburb, and Dheri used to be a suburb, and those are now very integral to Mumbai. And you cannot think of a Mumbai without these places. They are literally the hub of commerce of the city, and no longer a suburban area. So that is really how Indian cities are. They have grown a lot. They are now more car centric. And then coming to the economic perspective of stuff. Um, Earlier, for example, Vietnam used to be a very two-wheeler centric nation, where like you will find 90% of people using two-wheelers. And now the country is moving towards cars culture. So this shift is more because of an economic aspect, that people have got more, money in hand. The capita income has increased a lot, and the same is also true for India. Indians have moved from two wheelers to small cars, hatchbacks, and then to larger cars like SUVs. And Pakistan, for example, being the poor country that it is, it will find mostly people using motorcycles there. So there is a lot of aspect to the money in hand, the money that people can spend. India has a very growing. It has the largest, uh, amount of middle class in the world. So that these are people who have spending. They have aspirations. They want to have, that sense. They have that money in hand to spend. So that is why they would spend more, stretch that budget a bit, and that is why SUVs are also selling. Now coming to the second aspect, that why sedans don't work, and that has got to do with the way that Indian cities are. Indian cities are always under construction. You will find a perfectly good patch of road, and the next day it is being um, cut open to do something, to do some work. And that is how Indian cities are. There is rapid construction going on everywhere. See Kolkata, there is the metro construction happening. Same goes with Mumbai. In Delhi, there is RRTS happening. There are all these highway projects going on just outside Delhi, just outside the major cities. So, with the growth that India is having, the infrastructure boost that is happening, there is always construction going on. And more so in the tier 2 cities, where you will find real estate booms happening, with people wanting to move out of whatever they are, uh, whatever they are in right now, to something that is more aspirational, to go into a more luxurious hub and apartment. And gated communities are growing in India, because that gives you a sense of belonging, a safer space outside of whatever is happening out of that gate, to have a utopian lifestyle within the gates. So with all the real estate booms that are happening, there is always some construction going on in India, anywhere in India. And that is why you have inevitably potholes, you have inevitably something that something or the other is going on. So that is the then the aspect of rainfall, that Indian cities get some of the highest rainfalls among cities of the world, being majority in a tropical region, having the high Himalayas, which means you get a lot of rainfall any time of the year. It does have its own consequences. Apart from being the arable land that we get, you have a lot of rainfall in India, and inevitably potholes. So for that, a low slung car like a hatchback or a sedan just doesn't work. You want something that is large, that has a large ground clearance, and SUVs are a natural choice for that. Next is the fact that India does have a very good public transport to speak of. You have suburban railways in all of the major cities of India. You have metro. India has currently, I think, the third largest metro network in the world, and it is only growing. It will continue to grow. And Delhi Metro is one of the best metros across the world. Um, and also the bus systems they exist, they work, and is the lifeline for many. And there are bus rapid transit systems in wherever they are, and they are brilliant. So India does have a really good public transport. But then coming to roads, and since Indian usage includes not just city usage, but like on an average, the monthly usage of an average Indian includes some highway usage as well. City and highway mix means something that you would want to use not just in the city, not just comfortable in the city, in the day-to-day bumper-to-bumper traffic, but something that you can uh, use on the open roads of the highways. And again, SUVs with the power figures that we are getting right now is such a perfect choice. Um, and then the fact that in the public roads of India, you have to compete with others. There are just too many cars in India on Indian roads, too much traffic, and you have the autos, the totos in the tier 2 cities or other parts, um, outside of the bypasses. If you are on the main road, you have the autos to compete against, the two wheelers to compete against, and your fellow drivers across the road to compete against. And for that, the assertion to dominance means that you would want something that is large and can put you in a lead, and people will give you, make way for you, like Fortuner and Thar people think, and sometimes also happen. So that's something that is also kind of true. And then coming to the fact that sedans also have a really good power figures. uh, there are simply not many sedans in India, and also they are pretty low. You get some sedans with high ground clearance, but then the car itself is low. And the practicality aspect of sedans, of SUVs, are something that really matters as well. You have easy ingress and outgress, you have a lot of space, you have headroom, you have the space inside the leg space, knee space, under thigh support. Everything is really good in the crossovers, and that is really what makes them a good car. That, like, it has got all that you want. You don't need to buy a separate car for that enthusiasm, you don't want a separate car for that ride comfort. It does it all. And yes, arguably have a ride comfort really good enough for the cities, but then out on the highway we would want something that has more dynamics. And then the warm hatches or hot hatches, which in India is only one, got the Golf R, and warm hatches, the i20 N line for example, they are tuned towards the handling, so not the best ride. Same goes with sedans. You either have a really good handling sedan or a really well riding sedan. And crossovers are kind of a mix of both. So you get, like, I'm not talking about the really tall boy SUVs that you have, like the Thar or the Mahindra Neo, the Bolero Neo. All these cars, which are the typical SUV, they obviously won't have a good ride comfort. I'm not talking about ladder frame. I am talking about the crossovers, and crossovers have the good balance of ride comfort, handling, and just sheer driving presence, and obviously the practicality. So it just makes sense. And coming to the economic aspect, which I was discussing earlier, that Indians can now spend more. The average income has risen, car prices has risen as well, but then you have a lot more choice. Um, like you could not get as many SUVs as you get right now. Earlier, 10 years earlier, you had just more choice in hatchbacks, and it just made sense. Now you don't have sedans as much. So what would you buy if there are only three choices in sedans, and in comparison you get like 15 different SUVs at the same price point? You would naturally choose an SUV. You just don't get as many choices to choose from. And when at the same price of a hatchback you are getting something that is more practical, something that has almost got the same power figures, something that is as good to drive, then why would you not choose the more practical option, which is the sedan? Which is the SUV. So that is what it is. It's a free market, it's a competitive choice, and laissez-faire economy just works. You just have a lot more choices there. It's a very competitive market. You are filled with options, you load it to the core, and you don't get a lot to compromise on. It really just gave you everything. You take a sub 4 meter car, for example. The next one, for example, it has got ADAS, it has got panoramic sunroof. What exactly are you missing on? You are not missing on anything that a large car is offering. Compare that to, let's say, are not similarly priced, just a little bit less price from the same stable. You do not get ADAS or panoramic sunroof on the Altros, which you can buy for around 3 lakhs less. Um, so that's how it is. The Punch and the Altros share almost the same stuff, and I think the Punch right now, I think the Altros also gets a panoramic sunroof, but the Punch makes more sense. You are getting the same car almost, and both are now getting a turbo engine and all that stuff. But that is just more practical. It is longer. It might not be as good in handling as the Altros, but it just is just as much practical, just as much good, with the added height advantage, with the added, that high ridingness which you associate with SUVs, that you are getting for the same price. That is a low slung hatchback with a really low ground clearance. This is a high riding SUV. So for Indians, the second one just makes more sense. So that is how it is. That is how the Indian market is, or market in general, and that is why the tendency to buy more SUVs or crossovers. So that is from the first episode of Cartels. Not cartels, but car tales. And yeah, I'm just funny. I just made that name just so that it sounds like that. Thank you for watching episode 1. On episode 2, we will be discussing about why a particular type of cars, which is very practical, which has good ride comfort, loads of space, and is also pretty high riding cars, just didn't sell in India, and it why it makes sense. I don't know. I have to research on. I seriously don't know why Indians didn't buy STs, but let's have that discussion in the next one. Thank you for watching. This will be a bi-weekly series. On one week you will have Obscura, on one week you will have Cartels. So yeah, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Bye.